Welcome to another edition of Great Health, Abundant Happiness, and Outrageous Love. Mwah. And what do you want to talk about tonight, my love?
My favorite subject, love. Everyone knows I love love. So I think we all have different versions or definitions of what love is, right?
Yes, you want to talk about the definition. I was listening to a YouTube reading on the Tao Te Ching, and it was interesting. Very good session. I listened to it twice. I mean, if you haven't read the book or listened to it on audio, go ahead and do it because there's a lot of great stuff there. But one of the things that they said was that basically if heaven were to protect somebody, would they send an army? No, they wouldn't. They'd protect them with love, because love is impenetrable. Impenetrable. I thought that was interesting.
I thought that was a great piece of information.
Yes, I think maybe in the definition, maybe that is, because I got that from the Tao, that it's impenetrable, meaning that, nothing can really unsettle it or unearth it or deter it.
Nothing.
Right? What else would you add to that?
Well, the definition, according to Webster, whoever he or she is of love is an intense feeling of deep affection, which I thought was really interesting. And I agree that it is a feeling, because the definition of a feeling is an emotional state. Because my initial inclination was to say it's not necessarily a feeling, it's a state, but a state of being is actually what a feeling is. So, if you have this intense feeling of impenetrable emotion, where you are, I call it that bulletproof self-love that comes from within. If you have that, really nobody can take that from you. That state is a state that you can choose to remain in.
Right.
Always.
Right.
Because some people feel that love is, something that you get from another person, and you cannot receive that from another person without having it from within.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, we don't really rehearse these videos. I was not even going there. I was going really to another person. A lot of people are probably pulling this up, trying to figure out what is love. I'm with this guy or this gal, and are they the right one? How do I know what love is?
Right.
But you're absolutely right. You have to have that self-love first. I was going to add to it that for me, so it is that impenetrable thing, love, but it's a feeling of that. You always want to be. I'm talking about that other person.
Mm-hmm.
So when you and I fell in love, like I always wanted to be with you. I want to be with you instead of being with my friends or my family. I wanted to be with you first. I put you first. And I think that's key. When you really love someone or something, whether it's yourself or somebody else, you have this desire to always be with that person or that thing, because that bond of love is so strong that you just want to continue that feeling.
Right.
And nurture it.
I think what's so fascinating to me about that is, and I go back to when you and I met in my own mind, is that, I had an intense feeling of love from within. When I was with you, I loved to be with you all the time, because that feeling that I had within myself, that I recognized, you recognized it as well within me. So therefore I was able to see it within you. It's very interesting and somewhat complicated, because some people feel that, well, I need to get it from somebody else in order to feel it from within. It's the exact opposite. It's when you've already got it within and you feel that, and you're with somebody else, and they expound upon your own instincts and feelings of love within. So then it becomes exponential.
Well, I think, it's an acceleration, because
yes, exactly.
One of the things that I was going to add to the definition was, a completeness. And I want to be cautious here because, a lot of the greats and people, as you study this stuff, if you do have your self-love and you understand you're all part of the universe, that you don't really need another person to complete you. I mean, that's something that you have to get in your head first. So when you have that self-love, you don't really need another person to complete you. But I think a lot of us do want to spend time with another person or something. So once you check that box, there is a feeling of completeness that this person, makes it all work.
Right.
And it's like, I think that's where that word completeness comes from. And when you want to spend lots of time with that person, there's a reason, because it's filling up some of your time, your great time on this planet, with goodness and love. And it is a completeness.
It is. And it's also a recognition. And that's really important, because when you're with somebody and you've already got that inner self-love and you see that they recognize it, you then recognize it within them as well. And this becomes just, this is where the magic between two people really happens. Because if it's only one person, and it's very difficult for them to recognize love if they don't have it within. So if you're, just as an example, with somebody who's super insecure and you're very secure, they are attracted to your security, but they need you to make them feel secure. And that's where you run into an issue. When somebody is needing you to make themselves feel a certain way, they already have that feeling. So when you and I met, we both had that feeling and we recognized it in each other. So it brings you to this state beyond love of, this vibrational state that is just swirling so high. You start at love is 520 or something like that, and you go up to 600 because you're in this state of joy, because you recognize that this other person feels it and sees it and shares it. And that's magical.
Yeah, that sharing, I guess, is that completeness. The other thing that came to mind, again, I have to keep saying this, because once you've decided that you're whole and you love yourself, you really don't need anyone to complete you. But also this love that we're talking about is a feeling of comfort and safety. And comfort and safety, I guess comfort is, when you're good with yourself, you're comfortable around yourself, hopefully.
Exactly.
You're like, if you're reading a book, or you're taking a walk in the woods, or you're by yourself, there's a comfort. You don't have to, do something for somebody else. It's just yourself, and there's something comfortable about that.
Right.
And safe, because obviously it's yourself. You trust yourself. I think people, when they get into relationships, there is a lot of uncomfortableness in the beginning with some, and sometimes maybe there's not a feeling of safety. And what I mean by that is, some people get concerned about giving too much into a relationship, or they might not get it back, so they don't feel safe. Now, I don't think that's a healthy place to be in.
I agree.
The other thing, in listening to the Tao, it's all about serving others, and you just keep putting it forth. You don't really worry about that stuff. But most of us aren't there. We're not sages, and we're not fully there yet.
Right.
But I think when you have true love and you're with a person you love, or it could be a pet or something that you love, there's a lot of comfort there. It's very comfortable, and you feel safe, because when there is true love, you're not worried that the other person's gonna, leave or leave you in the lurch, and right? It's just not the way it is.
You don't have that concern at all, and I love that word comfort. And that was something that you and I talk about when we met each other. It's almost like you feel like you're at home right away, as opposed to that relationship. I'm sure we've all been out, on dates with people, and even dated people where, you might have dated them for a while, but yet there's certain subjects that are, they're kind of taboo. You don't talk about them, whatever they are. And with you and I, we never ever had that. Nothing was taboo, and there is no judgment, because another person cannot judge you and make you feel better or worse unless you let them. So again, this inner self-love, if you are exuding this, you know, there can't be judgment. You can't allow it, right?
Right.
And I think that's really important. And once you allow judgment into a relationship, you know, that's not a loving relationship.
Right.
That's not love.
Right.
Right.
So I mean, I think these are great definitions. We'd like to hear from you guys too, if this is kind of answering your question. But I also want to say that nothing is 100%. Like, you know, I can see someone listening to this thinking, I have some of that, but I don't like when she does this, or I don't like when he does that, or, you know, nobody's perfect. So at the end of the day, egos come into play, and people have issues. And most of the things in the ego, you mentioned vibrational energy, love and joy are at the top of the food chain. You know, down the bottom are, you know, anger and pride and jealousy and a lot of that other stuff that, you know, people's egos come into play, and those things happen. So I guess I'd just say that I feel like, you know, we have this going on most of the time, but again, we're not perfect. Once in a while we might have words, or we might disagree on something. So
Plenty of times.
Yeah, that kind of stuff happens. So I guess I'm just trying to put that out there, that, you know, the things we're talking about, the definition of love, it doesn't have to be like, you know, every split second of every day, the definition is true, and that's what's happening, and nothing else can come into place, because, you know, shit happens in this world, right?
It does.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe you don't feel well, or you, you know, get some bad news, and you've yet to made the decision to, you know, to see the positive side of something, or, you know, whatever the reason is. Of course, we all have our moments. So, you know, it's not a 24/7 perfection. It's really never, you know, that. So I think that's a really great point.
Yeah, thanks. I would say that, you know, I think as we get older, you become more sage-like, because you start to figure this stuff out. So I think as we've gotten older, it's probably more continuous, because, you know, we might say something the other person doesn't like, we both look at each other and laugh, because we're catching ourselves now. And, you know, we spent so much time together. It's like 30 years coming up here in a couple months.
Yes, it is.
That's a long time. You start to figure people out, but I think you start to figure life out too as you go.
Yeah.
There are a lot of older souls out there that maybe, you know, you could be 20 years old and you have all this stuff figured out. But I think as we go through this life, you know, we're here to learn and grow, and you do learn a lot along the way. I think it does become easier as you get older.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like, especially lately, and again, I don't know if it's because of what's been going on, you know, in the world, or if it's just my own evolution, but I feel as if I don't want to waste any time. Time's going by so fast. So, you know, I feel like I'm laughing off so much more than I ever have in my life. And I think that's really, really important. And, you know, we have a lot of people that we talk with that are, what's the word? Disappointed in certain aspects of their relationship. And I think it's really important to understand that love is unconditional. So if you are putting conditions on the relationship, then that's not love.
That's not the true love that we're talking about. That's what they call conditional love, right? It's not what we're talking about here.
Exactly. Right. So I just wanted to make sure that,
that's
you know, that we made that clarification.
No, I think that's an important clarification. And, you know, a lot of people have had that growing up. It's like, hey, if you do this and this and this, you know, I'm going to do something for you. This could be a parent, you know, giving you some kind of reward, or you're a good boy if you do this when you're young. Right. You know, there shouldn't be anything. If you do this, you're good. Right. You're good anyway. I mean, is your point, right? There shouldn't be any conditions on it.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. And, you know, some people can fall in love with, you know, people that are, age is not important in love. You know, there's relationships between, you know, men and women, women and women, men and men. There's all sorts of relationships that are going on, and there are no parameters for what your relationship should be and what your love is. The only parameter should be that you have it from within, and the person you're with shares that same exuberance about love with you. That's the only parameter that you really need for love.
I like it. So maybe you guys could let us know down below if there are other things you want to add to the definition or questions you have. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you for loving me all these years. We've been together longer than we've been apart. It's really exciting.
We just said that today, right? We've been together longer than we've been separate in this life.
Yeah, in this life.
Right.
In this life.
Right.
Wishing you great health, abundant happiness, and outrageous love from the snowy nest. We got our first snowstorm today at Copper Mountain.